don't get a move on that body, I'll be forced to give you a ticket. So get with it.
Well, the new theme music for our man, Congressman Tim Griffin. Because there is no parking on the dance floor under his administration.
Hey, there's not even a need for a citation book.
No.
Because we know it ain't going to happen.
No, that's the new theme music for our man, Congressman Tim Griffin. Is no parking on the dance floor. Oh, man. Good morning, Tim.
Morning. How you doing?
We're doing well, my friend. Thank you very much for being on, and on relatively short notice, too. We're in the midst of the president sneaking the Dalai Lama into the White House and chatting it up with him. A lot's been thrown around about this debt ceiling increase.
Can I don't know if it's 5, or 3 or 2, but could I dispel a couple of myths?
I please do. That's why we wanted to have you on. Fire away.
Mythbuster.
Yes, Mythbuster. I could be that guy with the goofy mutton chop mustache or whatever, and you can be the beret.
Well,
yes.
First of all, I was chatting with some folks on Facebook this morning, and I hear all the time that if we could just get rid of the waste, the fraud, and the abuse, then we would somehow balance the budget. Well, first of all, the government claims to have been going after waste, fraud, and abuse for decades.
Right.
I mean, every time a politician is asked how they're going to pay for this new program, well, first of all, we're going to find efficiencies by getting rid of waste, fraud, and abuse.
Right.
So when we prosecute people for Medicare fraud, that's getting rid of waste, fraud, and abuse. So we're already doing something on that. Secondly, CBO says it's about 5% of Medicare or 5% of the whole budget when you're talking about waste, fraud, and abuse. So should we get rid of waste, fraud, and abuse? Absolutely. Should we keep pursuing it? Absolutely. But it's sort of like getting rid of your cable when you can't afford your $10,000 a month mortgage.
Right.
It's important to show austerity and to show you're serious, but it ain't gonna solve your problem.
Right. That's a very good point. You got it right. You got a $10,000 mortgage that you can't afford. You sit down with your wife and go, okay, let's cut out HBO and Showtime.
Yeah.
And then that gets us another. Now we're $9,950 short this month.
Well, and then the other one I heard this morning is if you just eliminate the salaries of congressmen and senators and the president. Well, as exciting as that may sound to some folks, now that will be literally that would be less than the cable bill.
Yeah,
that would be saying I'm not going to buy gum.
That's nothing
on a monthly basis.
But look, the bottom line and what we're talking about here is there have to be spending cuts in a budget moving forward. If we do not curb spending as a government, we are headed in the same direction that Greece or Iceland or whomever else. It's
Spain.
Exactly.
Yeah,
it's
Italy.
Argentina in the 1970s. We're down a dangerous path.
Yeah. So the first thing is on waste, fraud, and abuse. Important to go after it. Not going to balance the budget with it. The second thing that I hear is all the different reasons why we have this debt problem in terms of what's driving the debt. I think it is fair to say that presidents of both parties, Congresses run by both parties, have contributed to the debt problem. No doubt about that. Everybody likes to say, well, Bill Clinton balanced the budget. Well, Bill Clinton, with a Republican Congress, balanced the budget for a very, very brief time. Bill Clinton still added $1.5 trillion to the debt over his term. President Bush added much more. Some of that dealing with 9/11. Some of it was just spending it shouldn't have happened. but this president, what we've got, has basically taken everybody to school on spending.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
With the stimulus and what have you. Now, all of that is true. There's plenty of blame to go around. So too much spending is a big part of it. Secondly, economic slowdown has made things much worse. 9/11 slowdown. I've got the chart in front of me that shows the percentage of the economy, percentage of GDP that we took in revenue. And I can tell you, after 9/11, when the economy just froze, revenues went way down because when the economy's not chugging, people aren't paying taxes. It went down again when we had the financial meltdown of the housing market. That really hurt incoming revenue. And then, of course, now we're in a downturn and revenues are down. So that's a part of it. But the big, big driver of the debt that politicians don't like to address comes with entitlements.
Yeah, that yes.
Yeah, and a lot of my supporters say, well, they're not entitlements. I paid for them. And yes, you do pay for them. I'm talking about Medicare, talking about Social Security. They are critical programs. My mom's 70. She's on both of them. And they are very important. It's important that we save them. But here's what I would say to that. They're called entitlements simply because under the law, you're entitled to them if you meet certain requirements.
Mm-hmm.
But politicians have misled people. They've said, hey, you've got an account somewhere with your money in it that you paid into Social Security, like a 401k. Not true. You get a little statement that says, hey, your Social Security money is going to be this much, as if you've got a little account somewhere. The truth is that both Social Security and Medicare are going bankrupt. Now, Medicare is going bankrupt a lot faster. This is not news. This is not a Democrat or Republican deal. This is a fact.
Mm-hmm.
And so,
there's no doubt about that. If we maintain the spending at these levels,
if we leave it exactly
everybody
as
agrees.
it is,
yes, everyone agrees.
It goes bankrupt. And here's the thing, Bill. In 1998, Bill Clinton appointed a commission to look at Medicare because he knew back then, over a decade,
mm-hmm.
that it was going bankrupt, and they had some recommendations on how to deal with Medicare. Politicians never pursued them, never passed
mm-hmm.
them, never implemented them. And that's why 13 years later, we still got this problem. So what's the big problem? Here's the big problem. With Social Security, when it was started, there were 16 people working for every one recipient. With Medicare, we have 10,000 people going on to Medicare every day. Why? Baby boomers.
Yeah.
Baby boomers
aging
were
into the
working.
Yeah.
Now they're retiring one day at a time. They're retiring. Now here's where the difficulty comes in. I have people tell me all the time, I paid for my Medicare. Yes, you did pay Medicare taxes. I pay Medicare taxes. You pay Medicare taxes. Yes, we pay Medicare taxes. So where's the problem? I had someone ask me, where's all that money we've been paying all these years? Well, what we pay in our taxes is more like a down payment because we pay in, the average American pays in about $100,000 over their lifetime to Medicare. And someone might say to me, as they have, man, I paid in $100,000 over my lifetime. Why isn't that enough? Because the average person that pays in $100,000 gets $315,000 back.
Yeah.
That's where the math is hurting us, and it's 10,000 more every day. So the president's plan is to leave things as it is and let his independent payment advisory board of unelected folks that was in the Obama health care law, let them decide where the cuts come. And some estimates, the cuts will have to be up to 17% under the president's plan. That's why we said we want to come up with a plan that puts Medicare on a sustainable path to save it. And that is the premium support idea that originated with Bill Clinton's Medicare Commission.
Yes.
And that we have been advocating for. So if anyone, I just say to folks, there's a plan that we've put forth to save Medicare. There is another plan. There's not another plan to save Medicare. There is another plan. That's the president's plan. It's the plan in Obamacare. They say, well, what about Medicare as we know it? Obamacare ended Medicare as we know it by taking $500 billion out and putting this IPAB board in.
That's the independent
payment advisory board that's going to sit there and decide where the cuts come. So, so that is why the debt issue is so complicated, and that's why we keep saying we got to deal with the entitlement part.
Yep.
And then the last myth that I want to mention is I keep hearing that Republicans don't want to close loopholes. Republicans somehow are in favor of the rich. Well, I'd say a couple things to that. I am in favor of job creators, whether they're big job creators or small job creators. There's no doubt about that. But we are the ones that have proposed closing all these loopholes and having a fair, flatter tax system. You say, when did you propose it? Well, we didn't just propose it. It's in our budget.
Yeah, it's directly.
It's in the House budget
directly
that we
in
voted
Paul
on
Ryan's budget
this spring.
Yeah, I think that's what many Americans aren't aware of, the fact that we have the highest corporate tax rate of any nation on the planet Earth. On the planet Earth, the highest corporate tax rate of any nation on the planet Earth. But we have built into it so many loopholes and opportunities for corporations to avoid paying taxes or taking their wealth overseas that it effectively doesn't really exist. So we have this huge exorbitant rate, but we have all these loopholes for corporations to get out of it or take their money overseas. What we need to do, Tim Geithner, the president's Treasury Secretary, many others believe exactly what you're just saying,
Tim. Debt Commission.
The Debt Commission. Lower the rate, close the loopholes, and guess what? You'll see more revenue in the United States. Why not do something as simple as that? And you guys are for that.
Well, that's right. And there's two categories. There's business, which corporate tax you're talking about, and then there's individual. On the individual and corporate side, both, the President's own debt commission recommended we lower the top rate to be more competitive, to have a more pro-growth system, and then shut off these loopholes. So the idea that I had someone email me from Hot Springs Village last night that said, why are you against closing these loopholes? I said, I'm not.
No.
We are against closing the loopholes without other reform. Here's the deal. The president wants to close the loopholes and leave the tax rate the same or raise it.
And still have, I was going to say, upwards of 85%.
Yeah.
So you'd have corporations who basically could clear 15 points on their business. It's amazing.
Well, you'd have corporations leaving.
Yeah. I mean, just forget it. Yeah.
Someone on Facebook said last night, let's just tax these corporations silly. And I said, well, don't you wonder why a lot of them leave?
Yeah.
Do we really? I said, I don't see them as corporations and small businesses. I see them as job creators. Yeah. There are big job creators. There are small job creators. I love them all. I want them to look at the United States and say, man, that's the only place to do business, the United States.
Right.
That's where we got to do business.
Right.
That's where we can innovate. That's where we can advance technologically. That's where we can really create jobs. I don't want them going, how do I get out of here as fast as possible?
Exactly.
Because these people are making it impossible to do business.
Hey, I've got a couple of things on my personal live fan feedback over here that I want to get into. I think when we talk about the debt ceiling negotiations that are going on now and the spending cuts that are necessary to associate with the debt ceiling increase that as Republicans believe, and I think anyone with common sense understands, is necessary to have a sustainable economy in the United States and a sustainable government. I see a lot of folks, and I was just catching a text message on this, who look at these entitlement programs and they compare them to what they do every day. See, I don't think most Americans, almost all Americans, believe that what we do for the least among us is really important. But they want to see those entitlements come with some degree of responsibility, the same way that they have to get up and go to work in the morning, or whether it's they have, you go to work for XYZ company, you have to take a drug test before you go to work for XYZ company. You have to sort of, not means test, but justify length of time.
Make sure eligibility requirements are met, and make sure
exactly.
That sort of goes back to the to having a closer eye on the waste, the fraud, and the abuse.
They want to see. I don't think that most Americans believe if someone's getting a benefit, that's okay. They just want to see. They want to see similar responsibilities associated with that benefit that they're having to put forward in the private sector every day in their life. And is there a length of time at a point at time certain? What we've seen the Obama administration do is continue to extend unemployment benefits, just hoping to get through the next election cycle with them. And that just we're going from 99 weeks to 17 years now. And there's those people that do get up and go to work in the morning. They don't begrudge someone because they don't have a job. Because let's face it, we could all be there tomorrow. We could all be right there tomorrow. Humility is a day away. But they just want to see responsibility associated with it.
Right.
What do you say to those folks? And I think when you start talking about spending cuts, those are the Americans out there who really have an eye toward supporting Republicans on this debt ceiling increase.
I'd say a couple things. First of all, I want to take care of the folks who need it with the safety net. I want to take care of my mother who's on Medicare and Social Security. And what I say to folks is, if you want to take care of them, you better embrace reform. Because if you don't embrace reform and you compare everything to the way it is now, you're comparing things to a fantasy. Because the way things are now is on its way to an end because of the bankruptcy problem. It's like if you know you're about to file bankruptcy and you eat filet mignon every night that week.
Right.
Well, you can love it, but don't compare anything to it because on Friday you're filing for bankruptcy.
Right, you're done.
And
exactly.
it's going to end.
Right.
So that's the fiscal fantasy I point at. Secondly, I think what you're talking about is making sure that the folks who are eligible or who say they're eligible are certainly eligible. And I know that on Medicaid, for example, some states have made it more of a frequent exercise to demonstrate that you meet the income requirements, so that it's not you met them one time and then so much time goes by, and then you're still on them. You don't have to show your paper again for a while. Some of the states are saying we're going to make that more frequent, where you have to bring because you could get on Medicaid the next month. You could win the lottery and you're still on Medicaid, right. Or you could get a job and you're still on Medicaid, and so they want to make sure that the people who are getting Medicaid actually are eligible for Medicaid.
Hey,
and so I agree with that. Now, on the drug test issue, there's been a big push in different states. There's some conflicting federal case law on what can be done and what can't be done, but I think this issue is going to be coming to a head. I think that Florida is in the process of passing a new law that basically says, if you're going to take X, Y, and Z assistance, whatever they specify, you got to get some kind of test, drug test, or something like that.
And here's the thing too: this isn't really even coming from a punitive point of view. In my if the government is supporting someone and a mother of three, and she's a heroin addict, somebody needs to know that. That needs to be. Well, anyway, okay, we're up against a break. Keep up the good work. I think more than anything, the issue, Congressman, is this: we have to have these spending cuts. They have to occur, or we're going to end up like Greece, where we spend 150% of our GDP on servicing the debt, and that just, it won't happen.
Well, let me say this: we're not going to default. I believe this wall, a deal will be reached. My biggest concern is it's not going to deal with the debt. Don't let anyone tell you that dealing with the debt ceiling is dealing with the debt. Because even if you take the biggest plan being discussed, which is $4 trillion, that's $400 billion a year.
Yeah.
We have a $1.6 trillion deficit a year. So even if you took $400 billion off a year, you're still in the red, $1.2 trillion a year. So what I said to the speaker the other day, I said, once we get this debt deal, what's the president's plan to deal with the debt?
Right, exactly. This is really just the small bump. I mean, this is one of these. I mean, it practically speaking, it is. It's a big deal. It's a big issue. There's no doubt about it. But it's not. Okay, next.
Yeah. Well, the president doesn't have a plan, and he's rejected ours to save Medicare and Medicaid and Social Security. He can't deal with entitlements. He wants to postpone it till after the next election. Well, you know what? They've been kicking the can down the road for decades.
Yeah.
We're out of road.
Exactly. We're at the end of the road. That's true.
I'm picking the can up, sticking it in my pocket.
Hey, you met my mom back at Hendricks a long time ago. Wish her a happy 71st birthday today.
Happy 71st birthday, Miss Vickery, and I don't want to see any parking.
No
dance floor.
No parking on the dance floor.
You need to play that on the way out. You can't do better.
We worked in some Bruce Cockburn here, but that's our theme song for Congressman Tim Griffin. There is no parking on his dance floor.
Kinetic.
Have a good week. Hey, well, I'll see you next week.
Hey, I saw Winnie the Pooh last night with my daughter. I'm heading back to D.C. tomorrow. I'll just say this: the Pixar animations are much better. It was a good movie, but I got to go see Cars too.
Okay. Good luck.
See y'all.
Thanks, buddy.